what's up, we're in the next part. Please go check out the previous part to gauge your bearings. In the previous part, I basically sang a whole bunch of music lamenting against insistent men trying to bash the door in to the life of a woman that will literally never ever accommodate them. I sang Michael Jackson's Hold Me. Again, Will You Be There? Will You Be There? I sang Michael Jackson's Will You Be There, my version. I sang Adele's Make You Feel My Love, my version. I sang Easy, Don't You Remember, Adele 2, my version. And Easy on Me, my version. And all those songs were basically to allude to this epidemic that's going on in the last days of some pretty random men that try to slide into the DMs of women, try to slide into the lives of weak-willed women seeking to burden them with passions. It's a last days epidemic. It's a concern of the last days. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where it is that men are not going to take no for an answer, and they are going to be using sorcery, a whole bunch of it, to force women to be with them even though they don't want to be with them. These men will have been given opportunities upon 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 opportunities to do better in the past, and then they will have chosen not to, and then they would want to come in and mire the garments of godly women and ungodly women. However, the godly women will prosper to basically evade them, elude them. They will escape. They will be grease man, punga bampete, but ungodly women will get taken away by the tsunami of it. It is a problem in the last days. It's an epidemic in the last days, where it is that there are some pretty evil, nefarious, no-brainer men that are going to be exploiting women. So women need to be super on guard in these last days because of these guys. And I am literally incinerated by them almost daily. I spoke in my first video about how it is that God gave me a vision of me being like a porcupine in the middle of some lions that cannot consume me because my spikes are out. My spikes are out, but they keep on hovering around me. They stand outside of my ministry and they just want to pounce like the roaring lion, devouring, seeking whomever he may devour. This rando dude, adversary the devil. So I'm doing everything in my power to help people understand that we are at the very end. It's the very last days. It's the literal end of the very end of the end. I'm a total queen now because I'm a royal priesthood and a holy nation. End of the end of the end of the end of the road. We are there. And how pursued by wicked men I am. It's just yet another sign of the last days, and I'm going to prove that to you in 2 Timothy 3. Let us read 2 Timothy 3 together. It goes a little something like this. 1, 2, 3, go. But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty. For people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless. Does that ring a bell? Heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, so self-conserved and self-adored, with no regard for other people, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. These, let me just read all of 2 Timothy 3 and then I will get into this, right? Lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power. Avoid such people, for among them are those who, listen to this imperative, for among them are those who creep into households and capture weak women, burdened with sins and led astray by various passions, always learning and never coming to a knowledge of truth, and never able to arrive at a knowledge of the truth, just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses. So these men also oppose the truth. Men corrupted in mind and disqualified regarding the faith. Disqualified regarding the faith. Listen to that. But they will not get very far, for their folly will be plain to all, as was of those two men. That's 2 Timothy 3 describing the moral turpitude of the last days and what in the world is going to be going on. Alright? I want to get into certain portions of 2 Timothy 3 to help you understand how these men are going to be. They're going to be abusive, arrogant, proud, unholy, heartless. No matter how much gospel you give them, no matter how much you try to salvage them, snatch them out from the flames of hell, they will also be unappeasable. They will be full of slander. They will lack self-control. Like a city without walls, so too is a man without self-control. Like a bear robbed of its cubs, so too is a man without self-control. They will be without self-control. They will be brutal. Do you not imagine that it is brutal to perform a Hegelian dialectic on a woman? Essentially, what that would be, a Hegelian dialectic is the act of, or it is a concept explaining the behavior of a powerful body creating chaos on the ground, that it might rock up and offer a solution to that calamity. These men walk in a Hegelian dialectic in the sense that they can literally use witchcraft to cause so much disaster in the life of a woman that he would be the only Prince Charming rocking up to save the day. I've been lamenting about this on a loop, and I speak about it almost in every video that I do, that I am not going to be the hostage of a satanic man. You know that song, yeah, Jennifer Hudson. Hey, I don't want living under your spotlight just because you think I might find somebody worthy. Ooh, yeah, that song keeps on going off on a loop perpetually in my head because these men are like that. If at all you end up with one, you will be living under his spotlight just because he's scared you might find somebody worthy. And among the lyrics also, she says, maybe if you treat me right, you won't have to worry. In other words, if they repented, they wouldn't have to worry about their shoddy behavior, but they don't want to because they're brutal, they're abusive, they are unappeasable, they lack self-control, they don't love good, they're treacherous, they're reckless, they're swollen with conceit. It is a self-adoration that is so poignant that they cannot, for the life of them, for the sake of his wife, do better. Love her the way that Christ loved the church. No, it's not about you. It's about me. It's about how much I want to be pleased and satiated in my desires for you. But because their character is so fallen, they know, therefore, in that insecurity, that you could actually find somebody worthy. So you live under their spotlight. They literally control you, ascertaining that you can't move left or right lest you should find somebody worthy. That's exactly what goes on. So as a woman, you need to basically just let that be your anthem, Pina Ele, yeah, Jennifer Hudson, in the last days. I don't want to live under your spotlight just because you think I might find somebody worthy. If you treat me right, maybe you won't have to worry. Don't even be with them. Recognize that you've just met a man that's shining a spotlight on you, surveilling the living daylights out of you, ascertaining that you don't move left or right, because he knows that he will not build his character. And because he will not build it, because he will not turn to Christ, because he will not truly love the Lord, because he will not correct his ways, he will then make out of you a puppet on a string, a marionette under witchcraft spells. Who in the world is going to protect you from that but Jesus? Just because you think I might find somebody worthy. Ooh, well, live in there, little beautiful way. Don't do it, right? Okay, cool. So they don't love good. They are treacherous, reckless. They are reckless. If you look at their rap sheet, you'll find out that they've got like 4 different baby mamas. The dude from America, in the same year that I met him, contracted HIV because he was out just sleeping around all over the show without condoms. Fornication was the first and foremost issue. Over and above fornication, with it too was he also reckless. And now he wants to rock up and grab a woman with a clean bill of health that hasn't even had sex in 13 years. And he imagines that he can use witchcraft to achieve that goal. My ex-boyfriend, he wants to come back into my life. He went and married some other woman. He was reckless with my name. He knew he was still in love with me and reviled the living daylights out of me in front of his family. During the time when I was busy considering the things of God, he refused to heed them. If he had cleansed himself, he might have actually prospered to come back successfully into my life, but he hated God. He was reckless, and now being swollen with conceit, he's trying to break the hearts of 2 women, me and his wife. Just because you think I might find somebody worthy. I did. I found Jesus. Unfortunately, the woman that he did end up with, she's the one that's taken by a man who worms their way into the lives of weak women, seeking, burdened with passions and various sins. And now she's miserable with a man that is unstable, like an atom on the spot vibrating. He's entirely unstable in that marriage. And she is frustrated by it, but there's nothing she can do because, you know, when you accommodate a man like this, you will be a sorrowful sight for sore eyes as a woman. You will be a sorrowful sight for sore eyes, do you understand, as a woman. Just because you think I might find somebody worthy. Find Jesus, and he will enable you to be maintained in your, sobriety. Without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, and herein lies another kicker. Lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. They love pleasure. In other words, they see you, they think you're pretty. They see your body and they imagine, whoa, what could I do with that in the bedroom? They fetishize your purity as a godly woman. They fetishize your body even as an ungodly woman. It's about pleasuring their taste buds. It's about, I want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to have fun. I want a woman that's vivacious. A woman that's going to sing to me as I sleep at night. A woman that I can cuddle with. Like, it's all about their senses. Their senses. It's about what they can smell, taste. It's about what they can touch, hear, and see. It's about their senses. It is not about denying the flesh, taking up the cross, and following Christ. They have no sense of self-denial. They just want to eat, eat, eat. Drink, drink, drink. Defecate, defecate, defecate. Anything at all that can titillate their taste buds. Whatever can pleasure their senses. They're running with it at the expense of their own godliness, their carnal, and also, of course, in so being the way that they are, they then are also being at the expense of women too. They are causes of sin. It's written in God's word that offenses will come on the earth, but woe to the man through whom those offenses come. These men cause women to sin. They cause women to abandon their vows of chastity. They keep on experimenting with godly women who say that I'm chaste, I'm celibate, I'm waiting on the Lord for a husband. And they will flirt with them. They will keep on petting their necks, kissing them, hugging them, spending time alone with them, burdening them with passions, like it's written with Janus and Jambres, until this chick, albeit having been celibate for 5 years, albeit having been celibate for 7 years, albeit having been celibate for 2 years, you get my point. With me personally, it's been 13 years. He will burden you with so much lust that you might end up having sex with him, because he will little by little, incrementally, very perniciously, stealthily, get you to a point of ultimately laying with him. The dude in America, he was all the way far away, but I was so burdened with passions during the time that I was with him, and I kept on saying, stop speaking like that to me, because you are stumbling me, and he just wouldn't. He would tell me what he wanted to do with my body. He spoke about sex all the time, even going into a description of what he would do to me, and I would tell him, stop, you're stumbling me. And this was over video call. It was over video call. Do you understand what I'm saying? While he was sitting all the way in California, while I am here in South Africa. That's the only thing that rescued me, essentially, from ultimately ending up fornicating, because I told him to stop a whole bunch of times until I stopped telling him to stop. I just listened to it. I took it in because I allowed myself to fall under that lust. The dude from South Africa, there's a guy in this country, when I was working at MTN, that also was like that. And it's written in God's word that nobody can bring fire to their pants and not expect to burn, to their crotch area and expect not to burn. Yeah, I was out here bringing fire to my pants and I expected not to burn. I nearly fornicated with that guy. We were so, like, I had a whole pledge, a vow that I had said to myself that I don't even want to kiss before we get married, before I'm married. Like, I was so celibate and so chaste that I wanted not even to kiss. All we were going to do is hold hands, maybe hug. And there was always going to be a chaperone, according to me. Yeah, no, this guy literally lured me into his apartment. He lured me in. We would then spend a whole bunch of time together. Next thing, we're sitting right next to each other, warm bodies. Next thing, we're kissing, making out. So my little vow to not kiss, gone out the window. Just like that. And it got hot and heavy and heated. And there was a day when we nearly had sex. It didn't happen because of him, frankly. He's the one that was like, no, let's stop. If I had allowed him, he was going to go on right ahead and finish what he started. That dude, it would later come to be evidenced that he was also into sorcery. One of those 1 foot in the world, 1 foot in Christ. So whatever little conviction he had in Jesus Christ, and whatever it is that he imagined that he found in me as a gem, made him stop us from having sex when I was gonna go all the way through with it, and there was not even any protection involved. So I was just gonna risk my life just like that. That's what's good. Guess I'd say his bill of health. And that was me. That was 2 years into my celibacy. 2 years into my faith. It didn't happen because of him, and I'm grateful because he was carnal, he was lost. He wasn't even saved, but he had some conviction of sin, enough to be the one to put that, stop the whole thing from happening. He was the one. I, however, was lured into his apartment by him. He was the one that encroached on me, that hugged me, that kissed me, that came all up in my neck and breathed heavy down my soul, until ultimately I couldn't take it. I was literally swimming in lust, and I fainted under it. And thankfully, he's the one that, even though he brought me into that space of drunkardness, that said, enough booze for the day. If that relationship had continued, if it had lingered for any longer than what it was, I would have probably fornicated with that guy. Thank God he offended me, he insulted me, the Lord caused him to insult me. And I broke up with him because I couldn't believe what he said to me. He told me that he must be shooting himself in the foot today. He hitting himself on the head on some. That's the thing that caused Karabo to get out. Like all these other red flags, azang wahamba because of them. She left because of that one statement. Anyway, whatever. But that's a person that is a lover of pleasure rather than a lover of God. Having a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. They just want to titillate their taste buds. They ignore your boundaries, whatever boundaries you have. Like the dude from America, I kept on telling him, stop speaking like that to me, you're stumbling me. And he was like, yeah, all right. And then like 25 minutes later, he's at it again. No respect for boundaries, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. They're like ones who are walking in satisfiers instead of hygiene factors. Like they don't concentrate on godliness, on purity, on piety. I don't want to explain what hygiene factors are. Okay, let me briefly just get into it. Like a hygiene factor, think about the hotel or the hospitality industry. If at all you go to a hotel and there's no toilet paper and there's like condoms in the sheets when you open the blankets, and like the walls are there's like some stains there that you don't understand, and there's like, yeah, those are things that if at all that was the status quo in a hotel room that you went to, you would leave. It would be unacceptable. You wouldn't sleep in that bed. You wouldn't stay that night. You would absolutely leave and report them to radio stations and Hello Peter and everywhere all over the show that gross, this hotel, I found condoms in the sheets. Those are hygiene factors, basic things that are needed. Satisfiers, on the other hand, are if at all you go to a hotel and everything is there for you, cool, toilet paper's there, the sheets are clean, the walls are clean, everything is neat, yeah. And then they make a decision because it's your honeymoon to put petals on the bed, like rose petals, to say congratulations on your big day. That's a satisfier. Like if you walked into that hotel room and they weren't there, you wouldn't miss them. You wouldn't be like, but why didn't they go the extra mile? Why didn't they do that for us? Why didn't they, hook up an ambiance with candles on the room because of our wedding night? Yeah, because this is like, a honeymoon night type thing. Yeah, you wouldn't miss it if it was not there. But when it's there, you feel like, oh, this is so sweet. Look, they did this for us. Look at the box of chocolates. Oh, look at the flowers. Yeah, you feel impressed by the extra mile. But if it was not there, you would not miss it to a point of reporting it or something. But why didn't you go out like that? However, if you were to go into that same hotel room and it's your honeymoon night, you get there with your husband and there's like petals on the bed. There's an ambient temperature, created by candles and like some tranquil music all up in this grill. However, when you go to the toilet, it's not flushed. There's no toilet paper and there's period blood on the sheets. It's like, it does not matter how many satisfiers are there. It does not matter that there's petals on the bed, that there's ambient music, that there's this and that they've gone out of their way, that they have even given you your favorite box of chocolates, Belgian chocolates or whatever. It does not matter because I am not staying here. Ew, I am not staying here. It's not clean. It's not a proper hotel. You would leave. So what I'm trying to get at is that satisfiers without hygiene factors are worthless. Satisfiers without hygiene factors are worthless. Satisfiers on their own are worthless. Hygiene factors alone are sufficient, and you don't need satisfiers. Satisfiers are the extra mile. They are, thank you, cherry on top, but they're not the cake. Absent of them, you wouldn't live. However, absent of hygiene factors, you can't live. Well, having used the example of the hospitality industry, understand that in this particular case with Christianity, with God, with your walk with Him, true consecration, bearing fruit, being cleansed, having been cured from sin, and being sanctified is a hygiene factor. True godliness is a hygiene factor. Self-control is a hygiene factor. Bearing the fruit of the Holy Spirit is a bare minimum in a Christian, and that's what a woman should be looking for in a man, and vice versa. And if these things are absent, it doesn't matter how many flowers he can buy you, or how many chocolates he can buy you, how many trips overseas he can take you to, you get my point. It does not matter that he can buy you an apartment. It does not matter that he is cute, really good looking, that he is well built, he looks really great. Those are satisfiers. Those are things that, as a Christian woman, when you meet a godly man that is super consecrated, he loves the Lord, he is all super duper califragilisticexpialidocious evangelistic, like he can't help but speak about Jesus. From his belly flows rivers of living water. And then, oh my goodness, like over and above it, he looks like Brad Pitt. Over and above it, he's cleanly shaven. All over and above it, he's well dressed, he smells good, his cologne is excellent. Over and above it, he's got a beautiful apartment. Over and above it, he's well built, he's got a six-pack. Over and above it, he is super romantic. He is wealthy. He can take you on trips overseas. Those are satisfiers. Absent of satisfiers, if this godly man wasn't rich, if this godly man just, every so often puts on some tracksuit pants and some sneakers and a t-shirt, and he's clean, he smells like soap, but he doesn't go out of his way to wear cologne. Yeah, you wouldn't miss them if at all you're truly godly. You wouldn't insist or be pedantic that your man be this alpha male that has got like literally everything ticked off type thing. Like, godliness is so precious that when satisfiers are not there, you'll work on that. Over time, you'll teach a man to buy a wallet instead of just, stuffing his cash in like a shirt pocket, and that's it. Over time, you'll basically upgrade the partner. Let me upgrade you. Over time, you let him know that, but babe, maybe a little bit of cologne, it wouldn't hurt. Some aftershave wouldn't hurt. Your scruffy beard, it wouldn't hurt to get rid of it when he's like super duper godly. That's what a helper suitable does. When a woman comes into a man's life, he gets sort of kind of transformed sometimes, influenced positively into the right direction. But when his godliness is there, like I said, you'll work on satisfiers later. You will work on satisfiers. But if the satisfiers are there, absent of hygiene factors, you've got money, you've got the aftershave, you've got the Armani or the Bulgari cologne. I don't care. When you're ungodly, when you are misogynistic, when you are a chauvinist, when you haven't had your character chiseled, when the Lord has not worked in you, when you have not been sanctified, when you're a player, when you've got like 3 baby mamas out here in these streets, some of whom are always complaining about child maintenance, when your character leaves a lot to be desired, it doesn't matter what you can do for a poor woman struggling. If she is godly, she will consider your satisfiers disgusting in a hotel room whose toilet is not flushed, disgusting in a hotel room whose bed sheets have got period stains and condoms in there. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, she recognizes that you are filthy. Your hygiene factors are not intact, but you've got satisfiers. You've got money for days that you can use to cause her. Basically, you can splurge over her. You can take her on shopping sprees. Women in the world, unfortunately, have not been trained to disregard satisfiers absent of hygiene factors. But in Christ, the hygiene factor is so important that an ungodly man will be confused as to why you settled what he calls settling for a simple dude with just a 1-bedroom apartment, out just struggling, every so often, putting things together, that is a truck driver, and you're in love, like no man's, yeah. But when you look at that man, he is so consecrated to God. He is so incredibly worthy in the sight of God to love you as Christ loved the church, and he gets it. He doesn't get abashed in public when you speak about Christ. He in and of himself is not afraid to stand on a street corner and evangelize and tell some people about Jesus while somebody's out there kicking the crate underneath his feet. A man that is a missionary, and so he doesn't have a 9-to-5 job that's going to make him smell like Armani all day, wear a Hugo Boss suit. He's always in like old sneakers, and some, like I said, he's clean, like he smells like soap, but not cologne. A man like that, worldly men will be confused when you settle for him as a Christian woman. They won't get it. They will not get it. They just will not get it, because the things of God are like foolishness to the man who is perishing. They just won't understand. And when women get saved in Christ, such things as these happen, and then like their exes out there try to flash them, like a naked man in the park flashing some children underneath a trench coat where there's nothing else underneath. Flash some people in the park with all of their things that go glitter that aren't really always gold. Yeah. And this woman, upon her being unfazed by all the flashes of this dude's nakedness, when she's unfazed by it, that's when they go to like witchcraft. They sabotage, they try to kill a man, they mess with the marriage. It's like, dude, my husband is not even as rich as you. My husband does not have the walk-in closet that you have. He does not have like all these suits. He does not have the clout, the tenders, the money, but he is godly, and the two of us are working for Jesus together. They don't get it, and so they will harass the living daylights out of those relationships. And that's what is going on in these last days. A lot of abuse of godly couples by worldly folk who are trying to get them to look at me, shining their satisfiers while hygiene factors are comprehensively absent. So the lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, essentially what that would equate to in this analogy of hygiene factors and satisfiers that I'm using is they are lovers of satisfiers, but not lovers of hygiene factors. They are lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. They love satisfiers, but not hygiene factors. They're ungodly, but they've got much. They're ungodly. They titivate taste buds. It's all about their 5 senses. Sorry. It is about what they can taste, see, smell, hear. You get my touch. It's about salivating after that which is going to make you feel better. They can never self-deny. They will burden you with passions, therefore, because they can't wait for sex after marriage, even mind sex. basically talking dirty, talking about sex, can stumble a person. That dude in America was far away, but he was out here having mental sex with me. He was always just vocalizing the things he would do to me. According to God, when you look at a woman with lust, you commit adultery with the heart. If you're not gouging out your eye, cutting off your hand, like, forget it. You are not with self-control. You are allowing yourself to fall into heinous acts. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that dude was like that. That dude from America was like that. He was stumbling me. If he was in this country, yes, like if he was around, I even told him that I don't want to kiss before marriage. He looked like on some, oh goodness, whoa, you're one of those. Like, he literally gave me that look. I could see his face on the Facebook video calling type establishment thing. So, I mean, if at all he landed in South Africa, he would have probably groped me at first meeting. Groped my bum. Groped my breast, because it's not like we're having sex. We're just touching. Whoa. No regard for boundaries. A man that is a lover of pleasure rather than a lover of God. God, if he loved God, he would recognize that the Lord is not pleased with this behavior. Do everything in your power to protect a woman from herself. Protect her even from falling underneath the pheromones of all of your love juice. Protect her from fornicating with you. You are the spiritual leader in this relationship as a man. But like, if you cannot lead her spiritually, you are not fit for purpose to be her husband. Even in the slightest. She cannot be pulling in all the time. She cannot be pulling all the weight. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's what's good. Lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. That's what they are. They love pleasure. They just think about sex all the time. And they're willing to wait for you to have sex after marriage, if at all that's what you say. But again, if you are content to do it just before the day of your sealing of marital vows, he's not going to complain. He's just willing to wait until after you're married. But he is in and of himself not convicted strongly of sexual sin enough to actively barricade against falling into sexual sin himself. He's just willing, since that's your insistence. That's not a man that's got conviction of sexual sin. That's a man that wants a woman strongly enough to stay his body from having hers until they're married. The guy in America was willing to wait until after marriage, but in and of himself, he had no conviction of sexual sin at all. At all. Settling, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Yeah. The next part says that they have a form, rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power. The power to be, what do you call this? The power to be sanctified. I will put in you a clean heart and you will be clean. I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. The Lord will remove the heart of flesh, the heart of stone, and put in the heart of flesh. The Lord sanctifies. That is the power of God unto salvation. That is the power of God to help you overcome your slavery to sin. So when you are when you've got a form of godliness but deny the power thereof, you deny the power of God to give you spiritual conviction of, like I said, sexual sin, spiritual conviction of all manner and kinds of grotesque atrocities that humanity can walk in. When a person's life is not transformed by redemption, they don't really have God. They have a form of godliness you are professing, you know? Jesus as Lord, Jesus as Lord. You are just merely speaking of Christ being king, but really is he to you? Is he really Lord? No. He is the Lord of Lords and King of Kings, but is he your Lord? It appears that the God of this world is still your God, because you are partaking in sorcery. You are also partaking in fornication. That dude was both a sorcerer and a fornicator and just a myriad of other things that he was. One time when I was speaking with him, because he used to snub me a lot whenever I spoke, like just, just a harsh way of speaking to me. And one time I saw his lips moving, because like I said, it was FaceTime. It wasn't FaceTime, it was Facebook video call. Yeah, I was speaking to basically just gain clarity on something he was saying, and he was like, I'm still speaking. And then after he said that vocally, he then literally gestured his mouth without vocalizing it, like, basically moving his mouth so as to show me what his thought was. And he said the F word. He didn't say it in so many words, but he said, he basically used his mouth to gesture the F word, and I saw it coming out of him. His speech was not seasoned with salt. He was still very profane. And oh, mind you, because this dude was always just talking about sex with me, and there came a time when I ultimately accommodated it, and I did not tell him to stop because he's stumbling me. One time he literally went so far as to say that he can't wait to F me. What the heck was I doing with that guy? Like, what in the world was I doing with that guy? He said that he can't wait to fornicate with me, but using the very crass terminology of the planet. Yeah, and I was still with him the next day. Yo, guys, you know when umuntu was settling hard, Ashem, Gabshungabi, Ravazizizi, I was being ravazed by settloms, like the settlers that came and chilled and created colonies in other continents. I was a settler. Yeah, anyway, thank God I got rescued from that settling. A man that was profane, a lover of pleasure rather than a lover of God, and he had a form of godliness, however denied the power thereof. He denied the power of God to transform his speech to be seasoned with salt and not be profane and not have unseemly talk coming out of him. He denied God, he denied the power of God to transform him to a point of avoiding or eradicating fornication, walking away from sorcery, from dark arts, basically just the life that he was living. Like, he never got transformed. He claimed to have been born again as a 15-year-old kid, and yet that whole time he has fornicated and married multiple women. And yeah, that was that guy's rap. I was temporarily insane. Like, I proper believe I was temporarily insane during the time of accommodating that dude. I was going through a lot. I was in sorrow. I was in a lot of pain. And when I came back to YouTube, he was the first person to contact me, to direct message me, and he made sure that nobody else will do it. And now today he's busy putting boulders on top of a cemetery, a grave, where it is that he has put my paraphernalia in the ground. That's the man that I nearly married. Okay. That's Janice and Jambries. They worm their way into the lives of weak women, perhaps maybe even financially weak, which is what is going on in my life, seeking to burden them with passions. Women burdened with various sins. It nearly happened to me, and I'm out here now trying to warn you that be afraid, be very afraid, run scared. Okay, they're lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, and they have the appearance of godliness but deny its power, and the Bible makes it clear. No other instruction, but avoid. Avoid such people. Avoid them. Just avoid. Janice and Jambries. Avoid such people, for among them are those who creep into households and capture weak women, burdened with sins and led astray by various passions. It's a last days epidemic, this Hegelian dialectic. They will also go out of their way to weaken the woman so they can marry her, so they can be in her life. Be afraid, be very afraid. Have radars, alerts, like signals, antenna, just perpetually. You can't afford not to be sober in these last days, and they're so coercive that even when you say no, they keep going back to the drawing board. I lament all the time against such men, precisely because they don't take no for an answer. They are rapists. Avoid such people. Always learning, never coming to a knowledge of truth. So basically, they're always in the Bible. The guy in America, he was always watching content online that I watch. He was always listening to Eric Stackleback. He was always listening to Rapture videos. He was always he had a Facebook page where he was uploading eschatological content, speaking about how we're in the last days. He was always in the scriptures. However, unfortunately, his doctrine was messed up. It makes sense that it would be messed up, because in and of himself, he was always learning, never coming to a knowledge of truth. He believed that he was a Hebrew. What was I doing there? You know, these black Hebrew Israelites, he was among them. Portions of his doctrine was in that stance. I knew that I didn't make sense in that space, but for some strange reason, I lingered for 5 seconds longer. And now today, he is literally bashing walls in, trying to come into my life, with that kind of a rap sheet. Like, he's the worst dude I have ever considered being with in my life. And he thinks that he's going to one day prosper to be my husband. Always learning, never coming to a knowledge of truth. Always listening to some Charles Spurgeon, the dude from the past, Olewako MTN, the one that told me that that however turned out to be a little sosara. Batung. That dude was always listed like, he was worse than the guy from America, in that he was a reformed Christian, kind of Baptist in his thought. He and I used to listen to Paul Washer and Stephen Lawson, and his favorite pastor or preacher was Charles Spurgeon. He used to always send me sermons from some of the most wonderful Puritans that you can ever listen to the sermons of. He had read the resolutions of Jonathan Edwards. He was this dude. That's why I accommodated him. Like, he was so sound, yet he never came to a knowledge of truth. He was always learning, but never coming to a knowledge of truth. He could sit under Paul Washer's sermons and still do witchcraft. I could not get that. We used to listen to the reformers all the time, like Puritan sermons. We would listen to them just hanging out together on a loop on YouTube. That section that is unperused, where it is that it's only got like 3,000 views, 4,000 views, because it's the narration, a voiceover of a sermon done by a dead saint, a Puritan. Yeah, we would listen to that. Just listen to such sermons as these. And he still used witchcraft. Okay, I couldn't get it. Like, always learning, never coming to a knowledge of truth. Always learning, never able to arrive at a knowledge of truth. Just as Janice and Jambries opposed Moses, so these men opposed the truth. Men corrupted in mind, and this is what's sad. They are also disqualified according to the faith. Disqualified. So I tried, I've been literally trying to reach them for Jesus, and they are unresponsive. What is going on there? Why are you still flatlining? Why are you still flatlining? Perhaps it's because you've been disqualified according to the faith. But the folly of these men will be clear to everybody. They won't get far according to 2 Timothy 3. So I had to just get into that to help you understand, Guti. We are obviously at the last days, to a point where the Lord would give me that Michael Jackson song in the first part, to a point where the Lord would give me all this comprehension, and that these men would keep on going back to the drawing board. And the most recent one that is wreaking a grand amount of havoc in my life is a dude from America who, like I told you guys in the first part, did a ritual at a cemetery where he went back to actually put rocks on it now to make sure that whatever he buried in the ground that represents me does not ever come up for air again. Lover of pleasure rather than lover of God. Never mind that. He is brutal, dishonest, he is proud, arrogant, abusive, and he is unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, not loving good, reckless, swollen with conceit, lover of self, lover of pleasure, lover of, I can't really say that he's a lover of money, but he's certainly proud. And guys, all these things that I have just described to you right now, it is the character flaw of the human race in the last days. It is a common grain. It's happening all over the show. And they're so coercive with all of their abusiveness that they won't leave you alone until God raptures you. That's how the last days operate. So I'm not scared. I used to be. At first I was afraid. I was petrified, thinking I can't live with all of these Korobela guys. Yeah, until the Lord showed me, well, I mean, Karabo, in 2 Timothy 3, I did say that they would be a thing. Now I'm just waiting to be reaped. I hope you've been edified. I am signing out in the name of Jesus Christ, Crank. Peace.